At the first row. So I'm Jane McCullough. I'm one of the co-presidents of the PTO.
And I'm Amy Galloway. I'm the vice president of the PTO.
And we decided to host a forum for the candidates for the board seat. The goal is to engage the community in the upcoming election and provide an opportunity for the candidates to share perspectives and ideas on issues important to the voters residing in Stonebank School District. The community was asked to submit questions both in advance and at the door. The questions were screened and consolidated to address the most common things submitted. Amy and I are the moderators, and we'll read the questions. And each participant will be given equal time to answer. There will not be discussion with the audience, and the event will be recorded for public viewing during and after the event.
Thank you. So there are two candidates running for the school board, Jason Hornby and Brian Altuer. And we have Jason here tonight, but we did ask Brian to come, and he was not able to come tonight, so I'll read his email. So Brian had stated, respectfully, I'm declining to participate in this event. I am running for a second term. If anyone has any questions for me directly, please feel free to reach out. Thank you. So that was Brian's response for tonight. We do have Jason here tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and let Jason introduce himself.
Thank you. As Amy and Jane said, I'm Jason Hornby, and I am running for a seat on the Stonebank School Board to ensure that our kids have a chance to succeed and that our school remains strong. Both of those, I would think, are key components to our community being able to grow, thrive, and also keep our property values high. I'm financially responsible, and I have a strong work ethic. I'm a proud father of 3 awesome girls that have been attending this school in some combination of numbers for the past 8 years. It's hard to believe that I've been through 4K through 2nd grade 3 times already. And I have 6 more years to go. Therefore, with my kids here, I'm definitely invested in what happens here at Stonebank School. I'm a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Nuclear Medicine Technology and a minor in Chemistry. For the last 24 years, I've been practicing nuclear medicine technologist and radiation safety officer, the last 14 years being at Aurora Medical Center in Summit. I think it's unfortunate that my opponent has decided not to participate tonight and own up to the responsibility that I feel comes with being a publicly elected official. If you still have questions for me after tonight's forum, I'm happy to meet and talk with you anytime, listen to your concerns and ideas. My campaign email is jasonhornby.sbs@gmail.com. With that, I look forward to sharing my perspectives with you tonight.
All right, so we'll get started with the questions that were submitted online. The first is, when researching topics that relate to decision-making or school board matters, what resources do you utilize, or would you utilize?
Well, the first resource that you would have to consult are the board policy. School district contracts with a company called Neola. They service a number of states, a number of districts in Wisconsin. They create and revise school policies based on current state law. Second resource you have to utilize is the Department of Public Instruction. They are the ones at the state level that set the rules and the regulation and the standards to which we have to educate our kids by. Third, we need to utilize our experts, our teachers, our administrators, our staff. They are specially trained in education. They know how to do this job better than anybody. We have to utilize the people that we have. Fourth, the Wisconsin Association of School Board provides numerous resources for school board members. They have a good realization that most of the people that serve on school boards, like myself, do not have a background in education. There is a plethora of information out there available for school boards and school board members to utilize to be more effective. Beyond that, if more research is needed, you have to vet your sources. You need to look for primary sources, direct sources, factual, non-biased, sources that use meta-analysis and evidence-based practices, and that have the data to support their conclusions of research. This is very similar to in the medical field that I belong and practice in. If new procedures arise, I don't just call the next clinic down the highway and see what they're doing, how you doing it. You reach out to those vetted sources. Utilize your professional societies, the National Institutes of Health, and PubMed publication databases that do house those independent research studies. As a board member, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard because we are educating kids. If our kids can't use Google and Wikipedia for sources in school, then neither can your board members.
Awesome, thank you. Next question. Given the declining enrollment and the discontinuation of the ESSER funds, how would you plan to approach a funds deficit, a funds deficit without cutting staff or programs?
That's tough because of the cutting part in that. If you're not cutting,
Did
you
want
have
me to start over?
No, yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I got it. I'm reading it here. Yeah, if you're not cutting staff or programs, then you either have to get very creative with the people and the money and the resources that you have, or you need to find a way to raise more money to not cut those programs and staff. Whether that's being fundraisers, grants, or tools like referendums. You need to be able to have an open dialogue about the revenue limits. Sit down, explore all the options with an open mind, and analyze the pros and cons of all the options that you discuss. Just a little side tangent here, because I learned a lot the last month when I'm looking at budget and researching with the state. The revenue limit is essentially the amount of money that our school district is given to operate within a year. The revenue limit is determined based on your enrollment or your membership, number of students, and that's multiplied by a dollar amount that you're given from the state, or maximum amount per student per year. In Stone Bank's case, that number happens to be $11,325 per year per student. So take that number, $11,325, multiply that by the approximate 280 students that Stone Bank has in current enrollment. That gives us about $3.3 million for the school district as our maximum amount of money that we have coming in to spend each year. Okay? So take that, so that's the revenue limit. That revenue limit is basically this big pie of money that you get to spend. From that revenue limit, subtract out the generalized state aids that we get, and that leftover amount that is the amount that gets divided up equally amongst the taxpayers based on your home value, property value, as your tax levy. Okay? So for example, if Stone Bank had one student, our revenue limit would be $11,325. Let's suppose the state aid for this year is set at $325. That means $11,000 will be divided up amongst the Stone Bank School District residents as property taxes. Okay. Now here's where you have to be careful, because what your legislatures in Madison, they try to pull a fast one on you, because most people don't know this, is that they will tell you that they are giving more money to education. And they are telling you that they are lowering your property taxes. Those are their two big things that they will tell you. They are, yes, lowering your property taxes by increasing the generalized state aid formula that schools get. Okay? But by increasing the state aid, all that does is take a different proportion of your big pie, your revenue limit, so there's less, there's more in state aid, then there's less to be divided up by for taxes, but it doesn't actually change the amount of money that schools get to spend. It does nothing to increase that pie or increase that revenue limits for schools. So when you talk to your representatives, and I will, we need to ask not how are you going to give more money to education, because they're going to tell you they're giving it in state aid. But what they're not doing it is you need to ask, how are you going to increase the revenue limits or increase the amount of money that schools actually get to spend?
As a parent and community member yourself, how do you envision bridging the gap between the school board's decisions, your own beliefs, and the day-to-day realities faced by staff at Stone Bank? And then the second part of that question is, are you invested in learning that addresses not only educational fundamentals, but growth and development of our children?
First of all, it's my belief when serving on the school board, my personal beliefs go out the window. The board is and has to be a team where everything we do needs to be focused on the best interest of the learner. Okay. How we bridge those gaps between the school board decision and the day-to-day realities faced by staff is by actively listening, teamwork, and collaboration. The job of the school and the school board is to serve the student and prepare them for the future. The second part of that question about being invested in learning that addresses not only educational fundamentals but growth and development of our children, yes, absolutely. It's actually part of the state standards, and our teachers need to teach to the state standards, so yes, we need to embrace that and teach it well. The Department of Public Instruction actually has 3 core competencies that are required to be addressed with the social emotional learning, and that is emotional development, self-concept, and social competence. According to the Department of Public Instruction, children who received comprehensive SEL education have increased their academic test scores by 11 percentile points. That's huge. We are very fortunate at Stone Bank that we feed into one of the best high schools in the state, Arrowhead, but it's a huge difference at Arrowhead. It's a huge different learning environment at Arrowhead with 2,000 students versus Stone Bank at under 300. So while they're here at a smaller community school, in a smaller class size, in a safe environment here at SBS, we need to take every opportunity we can to teach our little humans kindness, compassion, confidence, critical thinking, communication skills, problem-solving skills, and coping mechanisms. These skills will be useful not only at Arrowhead, but also in life after education. I think it's important, given the recent events at Arrowhead in the last few months, that we continue our strong focus on these programs here at Stone Bank School. Part of your Stone Bank School portrait of a graduate is strong character, and you aren't going to achieve that if you don't teach that here at Stone Bank.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on the current test scores for Stone Bank School, and do you have any plans to improve performances?
Well, these aren't really my thoughts, but more of the facts backed up by the data. Stone Bank School, last state scorecard was 82.7. That is, unfortunately, the lowest score of all of the Arrowhead feeder schools. And unfortunately, just looking at the numbers, when parents are looking for a place to take their children, they'll just look at the main number. And being the lowest, I'm afraid that that'll be a reason to discard us as an option and just move on. Parents and families aren't going to dig deeper into the numbers with the bottom choices. They're going to do that with their top couple of choices that they have. If you drill down into the data of those state scorecards further, our kids are really testing well. Okay. We've been pretty consistent over the years. We have 2 areas on the state scorecard, growth and target group outcomes, that are in the 70th percentile. So right there, the state scorecard has defined areas that we can work on. They've already defined that for us. We don't have to figure out where we need to improve. It's already been identified for us. And then it's not, like I said, it's not, we might be the lowest at 82.7. 83 is the cutoff to go from exceeds expectation to significantly exceeds, from a 4-star rating to a 5-star rating. 0.3%. We're there. We're right there. We just have to keep working at it and not letting our guard down. Keep striving for better. With our staff that we have here at Stone Bank, we can do that. It's pretty easy. We just have to give them what they need. And as a board member, my plan, well, as a member of the board, I don't get to have a plan. I don't get to issue an edict. But what I do is I get to be part of a team a team that gets to collaborate to create a plan and work with all of the stakeholders, teachers, students, community, to come up with a plan. How can we address this? How can we make Stone Bank School better and more effectively teach our children? Some ideas on how you could accomplish this. We need to give the teachers and the staff the resources and tools that they need to do their jobs fully. We need to utilize them as experts and listen to what they say. Again, they are educated in the art of education. They know better than most of us. We need to identify the gaps and decide how you fill those gaps. We can adapt and align our curricula to match the state standards, if that's where the gap is. If we're not quite teaching to the state standards, then we need to pivot and change what we're teaching to match the standards so that our kids can meet those standards on the test. We can establish SMART goals. And by SMART, I don't mean good. SMART are measurable goals. Set goals. Incrementally try to meet those goals, and then reset your goals and strive for more. We can have conversations between grade levels. I'm sure the teachers already do this. I'm not privy to that, but I'm sure they do. You know, if kids are struggling in the 4th grade, I'm sure the 4th grade teachers talk to the 3rd grade teachers. What are we doing? What are we missing? What can we do better? Those conversations can also be had between feeder schools and Arrowhead. Arrowhead wants our kids to be prepared. We need to utilize the resources at the next level so that our kids can meet those expectations and take full advantage of those educational opportunities at Arrowhead. Unfortunately, between schools is a little difficult as we've become competitors, even though we feed into the same system and our goals are the same. Between feeder schools, because of the fight for increased funding by open enrollment, has kind of turned us into competitors instead of teammates in the pursuit of education of our children.
If you have served on a board in the past, what have been your successes and failures?
Actually, I have been on a board. I am currently on our subdivision HOA board. Currently on my 4th term as elected by the residents. During that time, the last 7 years, I have served as treasurer, and I've had 2 stints as president during that time. Biggest success for me, in my mind, is bringing our subdivision reserve fund from just a few $1,000s when I took over in 2017 to currently over $25,000 today. And that's with the HOA annual dues only increasing $50 per year over those 8 years, and that also being done with only 22 houses in the subdivision. Able to accomplish this by smart budgeting, smart contracting, and very wise and frugal spending. As for the failures part of that question, I kind of subscribe to the Canadian author Robin Sharma when he says the only failures is not trying. So I don't like to say that we had failures. Probably the biggest challenge of being on a board, or being on the HOA board, is bringing a group of diverse people together to achieve common goals. Okay. Both of the situations I just described, finances, bringing people together for a pursuit of a common goal, directly apply to the role I'm asking you to elect me for as a school board member.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on LEAD and the current efforts of the guidance counselor and all the staff to incorporate social learning along with academics?
LEAD, for those of you who don't know, that stands for Learners Who Are Empowered, Ambitious, and Determined. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Allen, the middle school principal, gave a great presentation about this last month at one of the school board meetings. And really, what is not to like about a program that teaches or strives to create confident, empowered, ambitious, determined future leaders here at Stone Bank? But again, it's part of a requirement. We're required by law to teach these programs. The state, like I said, sets those 3 competencies as well as a number of standards underneath those competencies that we're required to meet with our students. SEL, LEAD, REACH. I'm going to date myself here, but back in my day it was called guidance. So whatever you want to call it, there are multiple meta-analyses that have been done, studies that support the efficacy and benefits that students get from these programs. And believe it or not, none of the base and the roots of these programs have anything to do with politics or indoctrination. This stuff is not happening here at school. And if it did, there's policies in place to deal with it. And it should be addressed at that time. Again, DPI, back to that DPI stat, 11 percentile points for those students that get a comprehensive SEL program education. As for the guidance counselor and the staff, we're blessed here at Stone Bank. We have a great staff. Mrs. Trajaski, all the teachers. My kids feel no barrier to approach anyone here at Stone Bank with concerns when social issues arise. And they're kids. They arise all the time. But the staff here is so good that there is no barrier to approach them and have it get help dealing with those issues. Teachers have been great about closing the loop, follow-up communication. And really, if there's coming from a family that has a few teachers in it, if there's one thing I know about teachers is they're here, they're in this profession for the kids. It's passion for them. It's not politics.
Leads into the next question. How does politics influence our school boards in a negative way?
I'm just going to come out right now and say I'm a nonpartisan candidate. I take pride in being independent. I am not funded by or have ties to or ever had ties to either Republican or Democrat or any other political party. School boards per the Wisconsin Election Commission are defined as nonpartisan offices, meaning that candidates do not run as members of a political party. That's hard to do when you're endorsed by and funded by a political party. School boards are meant to serve as advocates of the district when dealing with community, local governments, state governments, federal governments, as well as to be an advocate for public education and an educated public. Okay. This simply cannot be achieved and accomplished if, like I said, you're financed or having to report back to or answer to a political party. Politics in schools cause division instead of focusing on shared goals. It distracts us from being focused on our children's success. It creates tunnel vision, which limits open dialogues about curriculum, about policy, about finance. It limits your candidate pools. Who wants to come in and be the superintendent of a school when it's embroiled in political scandal or controlled by a political entity that's going to make your job of educating children even more difficult? It's hard to attract good teachers when you come into that same environment. And if we don't have good administrators and good staff teaching our kids, then their education suffers. Simply put, politics prevent the board from acting in the best interest of the school district. And there's no place on a school board for politics and political motive.
Thank you. Where do you see SBS in the future, and what is your overall vision for the school?
I believe we're at a critical crossroads at this current juncture in time. We have two choices. If we have the hard conversations, we have the possibility that we can be stronger than ever with phenomenal teachers, stronger programs and extracurricular activities, and possibly growing our open enrollment. Or, if we choose not to have those difficult conversations around declining enrollment and the looming fiscal cliff, then there should be real concern that we could be closed or absorbed into another school district within 5 years. Our current state has us with an operating, or with a fund balance, or savings account, if you wish, of $1.68 million as of June 30th, 2023. Wow, 1.68 million. That's a lot of money, right? Not so much. That's not even enough money to get us from July 1st through the end of the year into quarter one, when tax revenue starts coming in, without having to borrow money. And when you borrow money, you pay interest. And when you're spending your money paying interest, you have less money to use in this classroom. That said, it's not totally uncommon for schools to have to borrow because the revenues don't come in from taxes until after the first of the year. But it is possible to be in a financially stable situation where you don't have to. So why not strive for that? Why should we waste our money by taking out loans when we have the ability and the tools to get us on stable financial ground? That said, $1.68 million. Let's go back to that number. Our administration has provided projected budgetary numbers for this year and the next few years. Currently, this year for 23-24 fiscal year, school year, we are projected at looking at a deficit of $275,000. Okay. Next year, 24-25, that number jumps to between $325,000 to $375,000 deficit in the hole. And in 25-26, that number grows to over $400,000 deficit. So $1 million gone with that 1.68 in less than 3 years. Think about that. And all our current politically controlled board wants to do is cut. They're going to fix this by cutting. Yep, they're going to stick their heads in the sand and pretend that this problem and hope this problem just goes away. They're not doing anything about it. All cuts, no matter what, when we're running thin already, affect your children. Okay, let's just take, for example, one of the things that's kind of been discussed is possibly eliminating one of the bus routes. We only have 4. We're going to cut down 25% of our bus routes. And what we're going to say, we spend on those 4 routes right now, I think the number this year was about $135,000 on 4 bus routes. To cut one, we're going to save $15,000. But what does that $15,000 get for you? My kids already get up in the morning at 5:45 in the morning so that they can eat breakfast, get ready, and get on the bus by 6:40. So now you're taking a quarter of the bus routes away, so that's going to extend your bus routes. Are your kids going to have to get up at 5 in the morning so they can get on the bus at 6 and take an hour-and-a-half bus ride to get to school? What kind of toll is that going to take on the physical and mental health of their children? And on paper, that looks like a good option because it's a good chunk of money that should really have nothing to do with school. But it does. All of these decisions, all of these cuts, somehow will come back and affect our children. At the last board meeting, it was actually mentioned that there's so much waste and excess and inefficiencies in our school board. Then why isn't my opponent, who's been on this board for the last 3 years, the last 2 of which being in control with his cronies, done something about it? If there's that much money that can be saved, that we can overcome $300,000 and $400,000 deficits in the next couple of years, why haven't they addressed that now? Why aren't we looking at a $700,000 surplus this year as opposed to a $300,000 deficit if there's that much that can be trimmed and saved and cut? Okay. They'd also like to tell you that they added $305,000 to that operating budget over the past during the 2023 school year, which $305,000 did get added, but what they don't tell you is they actually spent $394,000 of ESSER funds, of one-time federal government monies, to come up with a $305,000 surplus. So when I asked the administration, I said, without ESSER funds this year, would we have had a surplus? And the answer I got was a straight no. So let's talk about telling the truth about our finances. They'll also, instead of having that $305,000 surplus, this year would have, without the federal ESSER funds, we would have had an $88,000 deficit. Okay. They write that off as these were one-time expenses. But whether you purchase those one-time expenses, albeit via computers or equipment in 2020, 22, or 2025, they're still one-time expenses. And if you didn't buy them then, you're going to have to buy them at some time in the future. So they spent the money they were supposed to spend. I'm not going to fault them for that. But to skew the numbers and make themselves look really great, I have a problem with. So the two choices that we have to either have the hard conversations or not have any conversations, I choose to have the hard conversations. And I think our community is in agreement with that approach. So therefore it's my vision and my hope that our community picks that action over inaction. And if we do, and we pair that with good long-range strategic planning involving all of the stakeholders, from those students, to the parents, to the community, to the teachers, to the administration, everyone, the sky's the limit for Stonebank School. We can do as much here as we want to. We can be financially strong. We can be in that significantly exceeds category. We can bump up into the neighborhood where all of the other Aurora feeders, or the Arrowhead school feeder schools are. We can be in that 88th, 90th percentile. We have the ability to be there. We can have those high-level programs. We can offer a robust extracurricular activity slate. This is where I see Stonebank in 5 years. We can do that.
What do you think is currently working well here at Stonebank, and where do you think we have room for improvement? How would you approach making any changes?
I'm going to start with the improvements because we've kind of already touched on those before. Let's start with the test scores. Like I said, 82.7, so close, but yet there's room for growth. Those issues, again, already have been identified. All we have to do is implement an action plan to get ourselves right there. The other improvement I see us being able to make is we need to enhance our website, especially if it's going to be the face of our district, where people are going to go to find out about us as a district, and we can use that as a tool to help draw in and attract prospective open enrollment families. When I looked at our website, there were three really big things that stood out to me, other than just having a hard time finding anything about information about us. Under the academics tab, there's nothing. It's blank. You click on the academics link and it comes up to a white page. It's blank. There are no links there, no information, nothing. If prospective families want to find out about what we're doing academically at Stonebank, then we need to have something there. Under students, same thing. Click on students, it's blank. Nothing. And then under families and school counseling, there is no link to anything. On families, it's I believe it's school counseling and then special education. Special education has some links, but school counseling has no links available. So if we're going to have these areas in our website, we need to design that website to be an effective tool that we can use to promote Stonebank. As far as the obvious things that Stonebank is doing right, is our small class sizes are a huge benefit and a huge draw here. We can individualize education plans better with our smaller class sizes. We have a really, really good, caring, excellent staff of educators and support staff. those two things really help create what Stone Bank is. It's a tight-knit community. It's a blessing that the staff know all of the kids, whether they're in their class or not. And one thing that I've really enjoyed over the years that is offered here at Stone Bank is we are able to take advantage of having our older kids interact and mentor our younger kids. I remember when my oldest was in, I believe, probably 5K, first grade, somewhere in there, when she came home and they had just started having the older kids come and read to them, and how thrilled she was for that. And then to watch that grow into her now being in 7th grade and return the favor, and how excited that they get to be that mentor to those kids. And I think that's really, really something that we do really well here at Stone Bank School. We get to establish those relationships and those role models across the grade levels because we are such a small, close-knit, tight-knit community.
Thank you, Jason. We don't have any other pre-submitted questions, but we can give you guys a few minutes if you would like to submit a question in the back and provide it, and then we'll maybe take a couple-minute break, see if anyone has any questions. There is a couple, okay. Oh, there
No,
are none.
these are
There's
blank,
none.
sorry. Anybody like one? I'll pass it off. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
There's no questions? Okay, so previously, I did forget to provide Brian's email, so I wanted to do that. So if you guys did want to contact Brian, it is, we have this posted somewhere as well, but it's going to be b.alturer, which is alturer@stonebank.k12.wi.us. So this is also on the website. It should be on the website underneath the board members as well. So feel free to reach out to him with any questions and get his take on things.
And Jason, if you want to say some closing words.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank my opponent for, again, not showing up tonight and giving me the entire time tonight to not have to worry about getting answers in time limits and be able to share all of my thoughts and ideas and concerns for you about our great little gem of a school that we have here today. Also like to thank you all in the audience for showing up tonight, giving up part of your evening to become informed about what the issues are and the current concerns are that I have, or I think we have for Stone Bank School. Again, all of these questions were submitted ahead of time by community members. I submitted none of those questions. So thank you for giving up your time tonight to become better educated and more involved. And of course, I need to give a huge shout out to the PTO for creating and hosting this event. Regardless of the outcome of the election, I'm glad that we have it, and I hope it actually becomes an annual event, because part of the school board is up for election every year. These issues and the concerns that the community and the parents have need to be heard, and this is a great place and a great event to inform our community about what's actually going on here at Stone Bank. I think the community can rally around this in the future, so if I have a suggestion, I'd be like, keep this up no matter what the situation of the school or the board is. This is something that can benefit the community going forward. As I'm sure most of you know here, our PTO does a phenomenal job in lifting up our school and the community and providing funds for school events and equipment when the budget runs short. They've done things like give us a new entryway, benches, magnetic letters and trays for 5th grade, headphones for students to use in the library, book carousels for here in the library, help with the Arrowhead Stone Bank Alumni Scholarship, class field trip costs, major audio system upgrades, that they had a hand in, and just sponsor events that bring us together as a community and as a school, such as the Haunted Hustle, the Color Run, the Trunk or Treat, bingo for books. There's a Milwaukee Wave event tomorrow. I don't know, are tickets still available?
Yes.
Yes, tickets are still available. And then don't forget, they do a really good job of feeding us, make sure that we're well fed. Chick-fil-A event is next Wednesday, I think the 13th. We'll be there for that for sure. But the PTO does such a good job of enhancing the Stone Bank experience for the kids and the families. So a big shout out to the PTO. You do a fantastic job and keep up the good work. Just know that I hear you and I share your concerns that were shared via these questions through the forum tonight. As I stated earlier, I'm committed to Stone Bank. I want this place to be nothing but the best. I'm committed to working with you and for you. I'm thankful for the opportunity presented by the PTO tonight and be able to share my ideas and goals for our school. We can do some really good things in the not too distant future. So share what you learned tonight with your friends, your families, your neighbors that vote in our district. It's time to return the focus back to the education of our children. So use your voice and vote on April 2nd.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.